Hi, this is Alan Shay, and we're here today on Our Society here at the University Club in Pasadena. I can't even begin to share with you viewers what today's event was all about. Extremely powerful, and why don't you share with them, Lena, how important this is?
Well, thank you so very much. This is very important because we're making a difference in our communities. We're impacting the lives of our young people, our adults, our seniors, and then we're going to change our country. And so one of the things that Mrs. Obama said is voting is the only way to ensure that our values and priorities are represented in the halls of power. And it's not enough to just vote for president every 4 years. We all have to vote in every single election for mayor, governor, school board, state legislators, and Congress. The leaders we elect to these offices help determine just about every aspect of our lives and our democracy. So the future of our families, our communities, and our country, that belongs to all of us. And those of us who show up, cast our votes, and make our voices heard. And that's what Women in Leadership Vital Voices is all about, educating people and creating those opportunities and helping them to understand the value of the vote. And I appreciate you being here to continue to spread the word and continue to do the good work that you're doing, and then connecting young people with, I guess at my age you're a senior, but I'm still doing my thing, but I'm smart enough to know to do it with young people. So we want to make an impact and make a difference, and we do that by teamwork. Teamwork, the old slang, makes the dream work.
And if I may chime in on this, because both of these two ladies that I'm sitting between have brought a different passing of the baton, if I may say. And the reason why I'm sharing this story with you viewers is it was back in 81, 82, I think. I hung out with Lena for a whole day, and you must have been about mid-20s, so I'm like very, very, very young. And you were with Mrs. Hickenbottom because she was working with, then he was just coming out of the president of PCC, and he was Jack Scott, and he had just got elected. And so he had an office off of Colorado. And so Lena and I hung out, and from that day on, I have never forgotten that opportunity. And with every young person that I come in contact with who has a real sense of activism, a sense of community, and a sense of really understanding the democracy that we want to retain here in America, certainly within our community here in Pasadena, I make sure that they understand that there are pioneers who have carved such a road that all we have to do is make a call. Yes. And things happen. And I share this story because I'm sitting to the right of Faye Love, and that's the name we're going to go by here. And she will attest to this because less than 24 hours, we made that call because less than I would say 5 days ago, we shot a show that Faye was seeking voter registration. And that's what empowered me to make sure you two get connected so that people can see this is not hocus pocus. This is really grassroots, making sure people connect up. And you viewers realize that's what people who really have pride and a real sense of purpose do for their community. And this is not something that we are getting politically motivated to do for purposes of wealth. Certainly not. We want to make sure that what we have been blessed with, we can keep moving it forward for the next generation. And speaking of next generation, we're going to let the young new community activists share with you viewers really what her experience was with today and being in the presence of a room full of very engaging, active phenomenal women.
First off, I want to say thank you for holding this space. We need more spaces like this where we strategize and then put a plan into action and see how we can move forward, how we can do our part. So asking people to take their role, become team captains and team leaders, and making it accessible to the public. I thank you so much for that. And I see how I fit into your vision. I see how I can help out, and I will do my part to support you. And I'm inspired to go out there and help register voters, because that's what we need. We need that. We need our voices heard, and we need to go into communities that they don't see us too often. We need to go in there and help get those people to the polls. And some of those people are not in churches. Some of those people are not in schools. We need to go to the parks. We need to go other places too. We need to just get out there and have this conversation around our dinner tables. Because if you can affect change at home, you can definitely affect change in the streets.
And before we let you go, one thing I continue to hear echoed throughout this work, it's called a work luncheon, okay, was millennium.
Yes.
That really puzzles me. How are we going to get millennials to really, really embrace this particular time? Because I was talking to one of the guests, and she indicated that we lost 2 generations because people are not active. We've lost all that momentum that was built up 30, 40, 50 years ago. So now you have to make it up. How are we going to gain that momentum unless we can reach the younger millenniums with a real sense of purpose?
So let me just say this. I'm not that age. However, However, my view and perspective on the young voters is that they are of value. And I think if we convey to them that they are of value and that they are engaged and they do care and they have opinions and they have solutions for some of the issues that are facing them and others. But we have to respect that. And when you show people you respect them and that they are important, they come to the table. But when you constantly hear that we're losing the millennials, or where are the millennials, or don't care, and they're whatever they say, I'm not going to repeat those things that I don't believe in, because I believe they do care. I believe that they are the change. I believe that change comes about because of them. And if we go back in our histories and look, it wasn't old people that made change come about in our country. It was young people. They happened to live, some of them, long enough to get old, excluding Martin Luther King. But if you look at his age and you look at who, even those that are sitting on the Supreme Court Justice of the United States of America, when they started out, they were young, making a difference. From Thurgood Marshall to Gingrich. If you look at the history of their life, they were young when they were making a difference and making an impact in our society. And that propelled them to continue on as their age as they gauge age. What we look at is that older person, but they weren't old when they were making a difference. They started off young. And so if we can embrace that, you get those individuals that you say aren't at the table back to the table. Because if you look at some elections that we had that were not 30, 40 years ago, they made a difference. They made a difference. But why did they make a difference? Because the candidate that was running said, you're of value, you're important, and you are the change. And so it's not about making it complicated. It's about simple respect. When you respect people, you value them and you trust them, they come to the table and they give you their time, their energy, their resources, and their talent. Good afternoon. My name is Lena, and I'm so happy to be here. And we invited all of you, our executive team and leadership team, invited all of you here today because we have a lot of work to do. We embrace everybody's thought, we embrace everyone's position, no matter what it is. We want you to have the right to vote, and we want to encourage that. This particular audience today is, you're going to see it, from our perspective. It doesn't mean that other perspectives are not right or wrong or different. We're going to talk about our perspective. Is that right, Janet? And Janet and I are going to team up back and forth. Now, those of you that attend our regular executive forum lunches, you know we always have an invited speaker to come in and talk. But in the midterm election, and then you'll see this again in 2020, our executive team decided that we would take on some work sessions and not have invited guests speak, but we would speak because we want to get you guys working. And that's the whole purpose of why we started, was because we wanted to do work that would bring about outcomes and some results. So you have a notebook in front of you. So if you have a notebook in front of you, that means we're expecting you to be what we call a team captain. And if for some reason you decide you cannot be a team captain, and you will know what that means when I finish talking, it is okay. We don't want to pressure anyone to do anything. We have received so many calls and emails of people frustrated saying, this is what these folks should be doing, and this is what should be happening in the country, and this is how we make a difference. Well, we don't have to do that anymore. We can say this is what we can do in our space right here and right now to make some tangible differences. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to literally ask questions, we're going to walk through, and Janet, you're going to hear Janet.
And we have some incredible guests here, and why don't you share with the viewers your name, what today's event is all about, and why it was so awesome for everyone to raise their awareness about the midterm election.
Thank you so much. I'm Jacqueline DuPont Walker, and I serve as the Social Action Officer for the African Methodist Episcopal Church International. What we understand and we always say is that politics is local. So while we make resources available around the world and for November 6th across the nation, it's important for me to be involved here at home base to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to get the local voters out. So to be a part of this Women's Leadership Circle today that's going to deliver 10,000 voters to the poll on or before November 6th is the reason I'm here today and why this gathering is so important.
Well, why don't you share with the viewers so they can get a real sense of the focus of an organization like this to have an impact on this upcoming election. Why? What's so critical about this upcoming election?
Well, this upcoming election not only has the possibility of getting reasonable statespersons who understand the issues that impact our community and our people in a decision-making role, but number two, the people we elect will be drawing the lines that control the districts across this nation for the next 10 years. So these are the people who will help put in place the plan for the 2020 redistricting census, and that will govern how resources are allocated, who gets elected for the next decade. It's important for us to have people in who are not simply looking for their own interests, but understand that they serve the larger good. The spirit of John McCain is what we need. It doesn't matter whether you're red or blue. It's the spirit that the nation comes first. That is not what we have now. And so it's important for people to speak up. Many of us have been saying, well, it doesn't count. Yes, every vote counts. And if you don't vote, that's a vote for the downside.
Wow, and before I let you go, you raise a very pivotal issue. Why don't you share with the viewers what made you raise that to the participants and the guests and all those that are here to bring about a larger turnout?
Every good idea is not new. And so there are different movements and organizations and drives and initiatives to get people out to vote. This group is saying, whatever you're doing, let's partner. And so we raised AMEV Alert, which is the voter mobilization initiative of the AME Church. We raised When We All Vote, which is one that Michelle Obama has put out. We raised all of the organizations, PICO, Rock the Vote, the National Lawyers Guild, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, NAACP itself. All of those do what we do. And most of us are saying, use our tools. If your thing is church, go to our tools, get the litany, get the scripture, get the prayer, get the bulletin announcement. If you're a social club, get the flyer, get whatever you need. But whatever you do, not only should you vote, but you should be responsible for 10 people Mothers and grandmothers, you know what we do when we want our children and grandchildren to show up. We wear them out. We have to wear the people we know out about voting on or before November 6th. So remember early voting, remember vote by mail, remember voting on election day, and if you miss all of those, go and vote provisionally because you're eligible to vote. Just because you happen to miss the window, don't miss that. Let me tell you something about the election in Florida. I'm a native Floridian. I have never been prouder of my state since the hanging chads of 2000 than 2 nights ago when you looked at the election. But one of my friends and colleagues in Orlando, Florida, told me something that I think we forget. We talk about early voting. He said that in Orange County, which is the 3rd largest county in the state of Florida, 80% of the eligible electorate had voted before election day. 80, not 880, had voted. So we can get people out whenever we understand that. And so our toolkit, AMEV Alert, and many others tell you if there is early voting. We also mentioned the people who sometimes don't know they're eligible to vote, like those who are detained. Some people have not been sentenced yet, but they're in jail. They're still eligible to vote. In some states, you don't lose your right to vote even if you've been sentenced. So our toolkit tells you for each state what the rights and privileges are for those who are detained for any reason, whether it's pre-sentencing, pre-trial, after sentencing, misdemeanor, felony. It lets you know. They can, in many instances, still participate in voting, and we should not forget that.
And you raise a very important concern that the viewers should be aware of that I'd like for you to elaborate on before I let you go, because you're raising so many important issues and awareness that the voters should keep in mind. Why don't you share with the voters really the importance of early voting and what that does for an election?
Well, I don't know if you wonder sometimes when it's announced that the polls have just closed, and then within 30 minutes a number pops up. Those are the early votes. They're the first ones counted. And so that really lets you know the trending. So any campaign that goes out and gets early voters is extremely important. That number also includes the vote by mail that arrived at the office more than 7 days before the election. Generally within the last 7 days, they're focusing on the election itself. So that early vote also takes into consideration those people who on election day may find themselves unavailable to go to the polls. Or if you really think they've had a sporadic voting history, they may just go, it's more important to be at the beach. So while you have that opportunity in that window, anyone who you think needs that extra nudge, urge them to vote early. In Alaska, for example, there are no polling places. They simply fax theirs in. I believe in the state of Washington and Oregon, they also have a remote piece. There's some states where you can register and vote on the day of, but that's rare. So early voting is that window to spend time getting that 10 plus 10 plus 10 to the polls. If someone is going away on vacation, they forgot to get that ballot, they can do the early voting. That early vote ensures that every eligible voter votes, and that's my goal. Everyone who's eligible to vote must vote. Let me also mention that now, legally, someone who is 16 and 17 can register to vote. And when they turn 18, they get a letter welcome. So in preparation for 2020, we should be looking at those people to get them to register now. Assure them they won't be jailed for registering early, because they say, I will be 18 on this date. And then they get their welcome letter like we do from AARP.
Wow. Well, you've given the viewers a lot of information. Viewers, listen to how critical this information is, because this midterm election probably will have such a historical impact on America, on the way we see our democracy, on the way we see our electoral process really be effective. We've had so much discussion about how Russia, how they were involved, how Putin was involved. We have all these issues now that has raised our awareness. Now we need to take a much more strategic approach and put in place a real effective approach to get the voters out, and knowing that the voters have cast their votes.
And let me say this, if you look at the history of voter interference, you will find that countries that don't embrace democracy have gotten involved in trying to skew the leadership around the world. We have to stand up now and say we will choose our own leadership. It will not be chosen through any programming or any kind of method other than the voters saying who they will vote for. It is time for the popular vote to equal the person who gets elected.
Well, we want to thank you so much.
You.
Viewers, hopefully that was a wealth of information, but let's get out and vote for that midterm election.
Absolutely. November 6th.
November. Thank
November
you so
6th.
much.
Okay, all right.
Getting people registered to vote, we want you to get people registered to vote. Our goal is to get people to the polls. Now, when I say it's our goal to get people to the polls, I want to tell you some stories that this is really, really true, and those of you that worked in several campaigns can attest to this. Your siblings, your sister, your brother, your neighbor, your best friend, your colleague, they say, Lena, for sure I'm going to vote. I promise you I'm going, you're doing the phone calling, you're counting the numbers. I know I have these people that say they're going to go to the polls and vote. On the day of the election, you call them. Oh, I'm so sorry, Lena, I got hung up at work. And I know it's 7:30, and I know I promised you I was going to go to the polls. See, it's not a presidential election. I know I promised you I was going to go to the polls, but I'm still here in the office. I'm so sorry. Or you get, and this is true, or you get the stories, oh, I know I told you, but I have to run and pick the kids up, or, oh, I'm in the middle of fixing dinner, or there are all kinds of excuses that are important to that person. And so you have to intervene, and I'm not focused on getting people registered, we're focusing on getting people to the poll. If you can do that, trust me, that is a lot of work. Just to do that. Now, in that process, as you meet people and they're not registered, there's all kinds of campaigns going on, getting people registered to vote. We were involved with one, getting the kids that are in high school registered, so when 2020 comes around, they can just go to the polls and vote. So there's all those things that are happening. If you choose to be engaged in that, we support that and want you to do that. What we want you to do is make them a part of your team, whether they're a member, a leader, and that you can count that number when they go to the polls. However you deem that's good for you to do that, we just want you to have the end result of saying that your 100 people went to the polls and you worked closely with your team leader to make that happen. So we're not opposed to that, we want that, because the more the merrier that are registered, right? So we want that to happen, but remember our end game is to say that we got 10,000 people to the polls for the midterm election. And I'm telling you, even within my own family, it just fails. Because you're saying, oh, didn't you go, oh, I got stuck and I didn't get there. So just getting your people you know to the polls is a major task. People think of this, oh, I'm going to get 10 new people. Just focus on the ones that are around you. And if you can achieve that, you've done a good deed. Does that make sense? So, any questions on that? Yes.
Lena, are we going to be great at this?
Yes. You are. We're going to have all kinds of fun things that we want to do. And this little bingo game is just one of many things that we're going to be doing. Yes, we are going to be great at competition, healthy competition. Yes, Diane.
Can we get out-of-state people into this?
I'm sorry. This is California. Now, let me just tell you, our long-term goal is we're going to be looking at 2020. We have a no-smoke strategy map. If you can get people to trust you, and one of the things that we want to do is give you adequate, accurate information so that when you share that with your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, your siblings, that they say, if that came from Janet, I know it's good. Because we fact check everything that we do. So when you get people to trust you, you're building up your cohort of a team. So when we move into the 2020, we are going to be going into other states. And Janet's going to talk about some of that now. Wait, hold on. Janet's going to talk about other states and other candidates shortly for the midterm in just one moment. But I'm just focusing on California for the 10,000 campaign. And that's what I want you to focus on. Janet's going to come to the podium and she's going to talk about a more broader United States campaign, and that's what you have in your notebook, and she's going to reference that. And then you're going to talk about the 7 candidates that we're focusing on in California. Is that okay? Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, before I go to Janet, How many are willing to be team captains? Only 2 out of the whole group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Team captains. Hi, Jan. Jan, here Okay, so listen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So, listen to this. Everybody does not have to be a team captain. Some of you here today may decide, I want to be a team leader. I'm not going to be a team captain. I'm not going to lift that heavy load, but I will work with you, Lena, Janet, Diane, Lila, and I will be a team leader. It is okay. If you decide to be a team leader, in that notebook that you have, you see this, just write your name and say, I'm willing to be a team leader. Or I'm willing to be, if you're not willing to be a team captain, just fill this out and say, I'm willing to be a team leader, and you can leave that with me, and I will assign you to a captain. Does that make sense? Now, so we're going to give it over. Yes, one other question. I can't, you know what? Stand up. You know what? If everybody talks, I can't hear the person that's asking the question. No. Let me just make something really clear. The reason we didn't say red, blue, and all that, we want people to go, in my family I have Democrats, I have Republicans, and I have independents. I don't ask them what they are. That is not my business, nor do I tell people how to vote. Our goal is to get people to the polls. I believe when you inform people with what is out there and opportunities and educate people on the candidates, they make informed decisions. It is not our role to just try to say, I'm only after this. I mean, you can do what you want, but that's not our role. Our role is to get people to the polls. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much, Lena. And I'm just going to follow up on her, on Lena's comment. I'm going to go this way because I feel like it's better. Okay, so my name is Janet Braun, and I'm actually a corporate lawyer and mom and a lot of other things. But I got my first real national election that I got very involved in was in 2016, and that is how I met Lena. And so I'm so excited that so many people are jumping in. I think in the last 2 years, I turned off my television in November when I was in Florida doing voter protection.